You so much, Ron. I'm very grateful. The first thing that I would like to share is I spend an awful lot of time talking with enterprises like many of those represented here in this room. And this is honestly the coolest part of my job, speaking with people like yourselves. So thank you very much, Ron, for the kind invitation and your hospitality in hosting me here today. I'm struggling a little bit to talk clearly, so I'm going to come off video just so I can take a sip of water in between slides. But hopefully you can all continue to see and hear, or sorry, hear me. Okay. Um, where I want to start out here is I've spent the last 15 years helping enterprise leaders like yourselves across industries navigate what we at AWS call the gap between exponential technology advancement and what is inevitably slower organizational change. There's a huge gap between the advances that are coming out of research and academia and what enterprises can actually adopt in their day-to-day businesses. I see executives from healthcare organizations, technology companies, financial services, and other industries. And if you're here, I suspect that this challenge may also seem familiar to you as well. So, whether you're leading a hospital system, a pharmaceutical company, a technology firm, or any enterprise organization, you may well be grappling with how to accelerate AI whilst maintaining really high standards of security, compliance, and stakeholder trust. The high level things that we're going to talk about here demonstrate whilst demonstrated with actual healthcare examples, apply universally to any regulated industry or complex enterprise environment. And I think healthcare provides a really good lens because it's one of the most regulated, most complex, most stakeholder sensitive industries. So if these approaches work in healthcare, I'm sure they'll work in your industry too. So the financial services executives here, they'll recognize the compliance challenges. Technology leaders will recognize the scalability needs. Manufacturing leaders will understand kind of the demands of operational excellence. But today I'm going to share a transformation framework. This is a methodology based on proven insights and with documented customer success stories across industries. By the end of our time together, you should have both a strategic approach and also some tactical next steps for you to achieve some of these results within your organization, regardless of your industry or the specialization of your role. The organizations that will define the future of enterprise AI, I think, are making their transformation decisions today. The question isn't whether AI is going to transform your industry, it's whether you will lead that transformation responsibly and profitably. So, as Ron said, my name is Mamoon Chowdhury, and I help enterprises like yours adopt AI by helping them align the technology with their unique business objectives. With that being said, let's begin. I'd like to share a few kind of precise documented results from healthcare organizations that are using AWS AI. So Novartis implemented their drug development strategy, and this is accelerating regulatory submissions by up to 12 months, which is huge for them. And that leads to AI contributing to roughly a 6 months improvement of their cycle time as well. So they're using an AI engine to generate, things like study concept sheets and protocol documents. They've integrated machine learning across their research development and on-market phases. So they're really kind of accomplishing tangible business results with the implementation of AI. Then there's AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca built a generative AI platform or assistant on Amazon Bedrock to assist clinical operations teams. It really kind of allows users to query structured and unstructured clinical trial data using natural language to very quickly receive auditable insights. So it enhances their trial protocol design, their patient recruitment planning, their enrollment, even their enrollment site selection. So it's been transformative for them. Innovista has a health cloud platform that's built on AWS. It kind of unifies healthcare data for their customers. serves over 10,000 providers across 500 different locations, processing hundreds of millions of data points on a regular basis. They think they save their customers hundreds of millions of dollars through AI-powered care management and risk stratification. And finally, Bristol Myers Squibb, they migrated complex clinical trial simulation workloads to AWS. This resulted in a 98% reduction in clinical trial simulations, down from 60 hours to just 1.2 hours. So this means the faster that they can develop drugs, the sooner that they can get those drugs to the patients who need them. These aren't isolated results. They represent wins that I see day to day here at AWS. They represent really systematic approaches to AI implementation that are designed to deliver transformational business and patient outcomes through AI optimized operations. Um, the research that's out there reveals a really sobering truth, and that is 88% of transformations fail. They fail because they don't focus on change management when introducing new technologies. We see organizations that are pursuing AI primarily for efficiency gains and cost reductions, but they're hitting walls around security concerns, legacy integration challenges, and workforce readiness. So there are organizations that are succeeding, and I've given you a few of those examples, a few more to add here. NOVA MSK are using AWS AI and machine learning solutions to create an MRI diagnostic platform that identifies abnormalities with a 96% accuracy. They think that's going to give them $150 million of productivity gains over 5 years. They're using AI to reduce the radiologist workload by 45%. And that enables them to read 62% more scans and bring the scan read time down from 15 minutes down to just 2 minutes. Roche developed machine learning models using SageMaker. They were able to reduce costs by 30%, and they think they've actually accomplished $10 million in annual operating cost reductions through the use of AI here. Then there was Change Healthcare, which introduced AI-powered revenue cycle management. So they analyze about 2 trillion healthcare transactions annually on AWS, and they think they save providers in the network about $500 million a year in denied claims. So these aren't isolated results. They're the result of proven best practices and methodologies that you can use that combine AWS machine learning and AI services with our strategic kind of change management expertise and experience. The result is that you get to deliver sustained financial returns through AI optimized operations. So, this transformation framework really addresses the core challenge that we see a lot of enterprises face when they come to AWS, or before they come to AWS. Specifically, how do you move fast whilst maintaining trust? This framework is really built on our experiences helping enterprises like yours. Now, the order of these steps I want to point out is not always consistent, and it may vary depending on where you are in your AI adoption journey. So I'd ask you to not so much consider the sequence that I'm placing these items, but the actual detail within these items themselves. Phase one. This is where we bring the pillar of AI to daily operations through a really well-governed simplification of daily business processes and workflows. What that means is bringing automation quick wins with integrated governance mechanisms to build safe, scalable, and repeatable processes that simplify rather than complicate operations with automated compliance monitoring across GXP, for example, and other regulatory requirements. Phase two. This is where we energize and uplift our peers and employees through AI literacy. This is where we integrate AI literacy work streams with a continuous learning culture. We talk about fostering digital curiosity. And that means kind of encouraging the responsible exploration of new technologies and new ways of doing things, whilst also providing AI tools and resources to help our peers make informed decisions in their day-to-day business processes and workflows and tasks. Phase three really identifies the business goals to work backwards from. And it's really important to select the goals in a way that balances both innovation velocity with stakeholder trust. You have to integrate responsible AI metrics into your business KPIs to establish a really clear governance structures that enable rapid decision making, but with the appropriate oversight. This isn't, oh, sorry. This isn't about choosing between speed and safety. It's about making responsible AI a competitive advantage. We all have to be compliant. We all have to have regulatory safeguards and guardrails in place. But if you can minimize that burden and offload the kind of laborious and tedious nature that compliance and governance burden often involves, then that becomes a competitive advantage. That allows you to redirect very expensive resources elsewhere in your business for can be more closely aligned with value creation. So let's deep dive into the first pillar. As I said, this is really about elevating operations and using integrated governance that enhances rather than hinders performance. Here's one way you can implement this. First, you can establish streamlined workflows with built-in AI safety checks by implementing AWS's HealthLake. We see a lot of healthcare enterprises centralizing their healthcare data around AWS HealthLake, which allows them to integrate with automated PHI de-identification, for example, and real-time compliance validation. This means that every AI workflow that you build across on top of that data platform begins to reduce the compliance burden because you'll have built-in HIPAA, GXP, and other regulatory controls that can be maintained while minimizing manual intervention. Secondly, you can deploy automated compliance monitoring across your regulatory requirements. We have 146 different services at AWS that are HIPAA eligible. And so that means that you can create kind of autonomous operations that not only maintain regulatory compliance, but also reduce that administrative burden by up to 75%. Third, you can create embedded guardrails across all of your business processes, especially those that are AI enabled. So things like PHI leak detection, detecting toxicity, relevance, helpfulness. And these aren't barriers, these guardrails. They're actually accelerators because once you can begin to automate them and put them in the background, they're always working for you, maintaining the reliability and the safety of your automated business processes. And they can also provide real-time audit trails for regulatory submissions and automated compliance tracking. So the tactical implementation follows really a phased approach. Phase one involves implementing AWS HealthLake integration that enables, for example, seamless EHR connectivity with built-in regulatory and compliance controls. Phase two establishes real-time compliance dashboards. So now you've got a compliant foundation that you can build on, where you can validate compliance. And phase three implements kind of automated trails here, audit trails here. So at this point, you know you have a centralized, compliant data and governance environment that you can use to build AI-driven business processes and workflows. The key insight here is that integrated governance mechanisms should simplify rather than complicate operations, and this enables you to build on that for responsible. I know many of you are responsible for security, compliance, and risk management in complex healthcare environments. As I mentioned, we have 146 HIPAA eligible services where your customer data is never, or your patient data is never used to train underlying models. Your intellectual property stays yours. Amazon Bedrock, which is our generative AI platform or service, includes built-in guardrails for things like bias detection and responsible AI deployment with really kind of AI-driven content filtering. We provide automated audit trails for FDA that can help contribute to FDA submissions and GXP requirements. We can model explainability, for example, for clinical decision support applications and regulatory compliance. We have data lineage tracking, which is very helpful for things like clinical trial integrity, and also human in the loop workflows for things like critical healthcare decisions as well. So what we find is that this approach really transforms security from a barrier to an enabler of innovation because you begin to offload some of these really manual, tedious management activities to AI-driven automation that works in the background. This accelerates time to market. You get kind of pre-built compliance frameworks here that accelerate your healthcare specific requirements, and it reduces your regulatory risk whilst also positioning you to accelerate AI adoption. And so your security and your compliance requirements actually become a competitive advantage and not a constraint. And I know that seems counterintuitive, but we actually can help you move faster because we've built the governance and security foundations that healthcare organizations require. So, Pillar True addresses the critical fact that, as I mentioned, 88% of transformations fail. And I think they primarily fail due to a lack of change management, a lack of focusing on how you need to transform your culture to be able to adopt these technologies. Um, the first is um, implementing role-based AI training aligned with what are really eight core dimensions of responsible AI. That means training your peers in topics like AI fairness, explainability, privacy and security, safety, controllability, veracity or truthfulness, robustness, and especially governance and transparency. So having a workforce that is able to understand these things, understand the implicit risks and how to mitigate them when it comes to using AI is absolutely key for workforce transformation here. This also means, tailor training for things like clinical, research, and administrative roles with embedded ethics and a compliance focus as well, where it makes sense. Second, it requires fostering a sense of digital curiosity. And what I mean by that is encouraging employees to really explore new technologies, ideas, and approaches responsibly. And by providing the tools and resources for them to make informed decisions whilst building competency in responsible AI practices. The tactical approach includes things like using our machine learning university for training that's tailored specifically for healthcare professionals with ethics and AI literacy work streams and so forth. I've seen enterprises use, red teaming capabilities as also as a learning mechanism as well. And you got to have risk management frameworks and also incident reporting procedures that your teams need to be trained on as well. Third, you gotta have a continuous learning culture, and that means having a regular assessment of both technical skills and responsible AI practices. What we find is that this kind of investment in learning creates a workforce that is capable of implementing AI solutions with a 30% greater productivity whilst maintaining responsible AI standards. We recommend the AWS Skilled approach which has embedded training, role-based AI competency frameworks, and a continuous assessment mechanism built into it. Research shows that organizations that implement really comprehensive AI literacy programs have really strong customer satisfaction and loyalty with their AI and ML offerings that they build. The measurable outcome is that you have a workforce that doesn't just use AI, but uses it responsibly and effectively. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Ron. I know that there's a lot of uncertainty in this area, and there's a lot of public commentary around this. What I see in my day to day, and I'll restrict my comments to that, is that actually when it's done right, This kind of business change management leads to people actually redefining their roles. If a developer, for example, has 10 things that he has to work on that day, or she, and they can offload a bunch of those to AI in the background, it means that they can choose which things they want to focus on and which things they want to apply their skills to and how they want to develop themselves to excel within their careers. So, in the day to day kind of practice of implementing AI, I actually find that people have been very successful by using AI intelligently, and they actually become a lot happier in their roles and become a lot more productive because they're able to be very picky and very choosy about where they choose to spend their brain cycles. Thank you, Ron.
Yes, and one other thing, I don't mean to interrupt, but one of the big things that plagued, maybe that's not the right word, financial institutions, payers, insurance processing, healthcare organizations, and EMR was a wealth of paperwork. And there was a lot of work initially done in OCR to simply scan documents. And I've seen this when people are using automation tools, but instead of simply reading the documents and creating a 60, 70% accurate Word document that tries to digitize a paper document, now we've seen that organizations then overlay AWS's capabilities to not only scan that document and digitize it. But then instead of relying upon a human being to correct spelling errors, they use AI to do that. And then they take it a next step further. They look at that document, they can see where it ties in, they can look at trends in that information. So really like to use the analogy of OCR and automation was great, but when you can overlay that with some of the agentic AI, Gen AI solutions that AWS and other people offer, it suddenly made all these individuals so much more productive. Everyone hates scanning documents and correcting them and figuring out what to do. And instead of doing that, they leverage technology to not only scan the documents, but analyze them, look for commonalities, maybe look for errors, and look for issues. And then the system and the protocols and the analysis they set up simply freed up the individuals, the human being workers, to then get information and questions fed up to them. So they're just making decisions, not doing all the grunt work. Anyhow, sorry, Mamoon, for chirping in, but let me turn it back to you.
Yep, no worries. Thank you, Ron. Can I just get a quick time check, please?
Yeah, we're fine. We're about like, for you, and Cy from Sloan Kettering, we're good for another 40 minutes. So let's not
All
rush
right.
through this.
Okay,
Let's not
great.
rush through this important content.
Thank you. So, returning to the third pillar here, this is really about defining or selecting business goals that can enable you as an enterprise to drive market leadership whilst also maintaining stakeholder trust and regulatory compliance. So here's the tactical implementation. First, every AI initiative should demonstrate clear business value whilst maintaining responsible AI principles. This means investing in a really kind of strategic alignment across stakeholders. And the key is balancing innovation velocity with stakeholder trust and regulatory compliance. You have to connect technology initiatives to meaningful and measurable business outcomes. In short, don't just use AI because it's cool, because everybody else is doing it, but because you have an actual business problem that could be potentially approached with AI. Second, if I can get my mouse to work. All right. Second, you got to connect responsible AI metrics to business KPIs and OKRs. And what I mean by that is you want to make sure that you know which things to measure at the AI level. So whether it's accuracy, fairness, bias, robustness, and so forth, there are many different things, many different ways in which people measure the output of an AI solution or an AI model. And you have to kind of map what is the impact of that on the business metrics that I'm optimizing for. If I'm optimizing for patient engagement, if I'm optimizing for improved effectiveness or cost efficiency somewhere in my business, I've got to be able to connect the AI outputs to those business metrics that I'm ultimately trying to optimize. Um, Third, establishing really clear governance structures, which means involving the right stakeholders that enable oversight. So you've got to have stakeholders involved across your technical business and business domains. For example, Philips built their Health Suite digital platform natively on AWS, and they tie that directly to business goals like patient experience, patient health outcomes, and improved staff experience and lowering the cost of care. The result was that organizations like this demonstrate how responsible, well-governed AI isn't a constraint, but it's actually a foundation that you can build on, and it makes these ambitious goals achievable whilst maintaining regulatory compliance and stakeholder trust, which we find is important. So here's a very quick kind of executive playbook with role-specific strategic actions. For the CEOs, establishing AI transformation really requires a core business strategy that identifies customer trust as job zero. So whether your customers are patients, whether you're your clinicians, that has to be a key organizational tenet that you have to optimize for. And you've got to lead the enterprise kind of behind that. So that means positioning them as a organization as a responsible AI leader that has measurable business impact for that maintains customer trust. Second, for CIOs, I mentioned before that we have 146 HIPAA eligible services. We see enterprises using a zero trust architecture for enterprise grade AI infrastructure. And what that does is enables innovation whilst also maintaining compliance at scale. For CISOs, we have an integrated framework for governance mechanisms with repeatable processes and embedded safeguards, which means that you can accelerate AI whilst reducing regulatory risk. And then for chief medical officers, we find that there's value in establishing human in the loop workflows for areas where you have AI and you're also using, you're also involved with critical clinical decisions that require or that use collaborative AI. You need to have really transparent AI decision making and the ability for the clinician to remain in the loop with those decisions as well. So each role here has really specific actions and measurable outcomes. And the strategic positioning in this is the strategic positioning across each of these roles that drives that competitive advantage. Success requires measurement across both leading and lagging indicators. Let me give you some examples of that. Leading indicators are those that can predict AI success more reliably than others. We find that AI literacy scores are really, really important. So if you're measuring the AI literacy across your organization and there's room for improvement, this is also a good leading indicator of success as well. Um, Research shows that I wanted to also add that measuring the implementation of governance across your organization is really important. That's a really important leading indicator. Having cross-functional collaboration as well, and having executive engagement and sponsorship across your AI initiatives is absolutely key for success. Research shows that the primary use case category that many enterprises start with is reduce manual processes, which deliver significant time savings. We see in healthcare specifically time and cost savings as distinct outcomes that people aim for. The next is patient experience improvement. That's the second most deployed use case we tend to find, which enhances the continuity of care and streamlines access to healthcare services. We consistently see customers report time and cost savings as the primary benefits of AI transformation. But we also see enhanced security postures. We also see automated security and compliance remediation capabilities as well. So the key insight here is it's what gets measured gets managed responsibly. And what gets managed responsibly drives a sustained competitive advantage, especially in complex healthcare environments where you have really strict regulatory requirements. So just to start closing this out, here are the immediate next steps that you can consider here. First, conduct an executive assessment. We have a cloud adoption framework. If you've already kind of started across your AI journey, that can begin to guide you. Second, conduct an executive kind of strategic planning session that ensures stakeholder alignments and set the goals for your organization. Third, do a cross-functional AI readiness assessment across all your stakeholders. Um, are they ready to adopt and use AI? Do they understand AI fairness and explainability and privacy, the safety implications, and so forth? And fourth, create an innovation factory. An innovation factory is where you can pilot ideas from use case to production. And you can build a transformation pipeline. And what we typically see is that within the first 6 months, enterprises establish a foundation with a governance framework. Then they start building and scaling POCs across the enterprise with responsible AI adoption. They build a cloud center of excellence. And then 18 months, a year and a half in, that's when we start to begin transformation that drives market leadership, that drives innovation and competitive differentiation as well. So you have access to the AWS resources. On our side, you have access to people like me. We have a healthcare strategic advisory council for peer learning, and we have a comprehensive partner ecosystem as well. The short message is you don't have to figure this out on your own. We've done it, and we can provide guidance here. Um, your leadership opportunity here is significant. You can lead with a proven methodology that has delivered documented results. I've talked about the multi-million-dollar cost savings, 98% reduction in clinical trial simulation time, 500x acceleration in data processing workflows. These are all real results. I invite you to join organizations that are achieving documented results and position yourself alongside them. For example, 19 of the top 20 pharma companies and 80% of healthcare unicorns are on AWS. I would suggest to you that the organizations that will define healthcare moving forward are making their transformation decisions today. You have the framework, you have the tactical steps, you have the partnership in AWS to lead that significant transformation. Last and finally, um, Ron was kind enough to share the attendee list for this presentation, and I see that there's a lot of leadership across healthcare and life sciences that touch millions of lives every day. The decisions you make in your transformation journey will determine not just your competitive position, but also the pace of medical breakthroughs that improve and save lives. I've shared a framework here that's built on documented success stories. These results come from a methodology designed to develop executable strategies that drive top line growth. We at AWS, we have a lot of experience and best practices that we can share. We have a strategic advisory council for peer learning. We've got over 140 HIPAA eligible services that you can build on. But here's really what I want you to remember. This isn't about technology transformation. It's about business transformation. And the organizations that will define the future of healthcare are making those decisions today. You now have a three-phase framework and you have those tactical next steps. We find that patients can't always wait for the innovations ahead. The competitive landscape certainly won't wait. But the good news is you don't have to wait either. This QR code will take you to our healthcare resources, and I also offer you my contact details if you think you'll find value in continuing the conversation directly. With that, thank you very much.